Hi, I'm Sifu Grant,
Hi, I'm Alex.
and today we're going to show a bridging technique. Primarily what we're going to be showing is threading, but this action kind of bleeds into some of the other bridging actions, so we'll cover some of those as well. All right, Alex, just give me kind of like a triangle guard here. So threading is more or less used for changing gaits. So actually, Alex, stand like this facing the camera with your guard up. Perfect. Okay, so his guard is more or less in center. And what we mean by gaits are points of entry to try to get past his defense, his guard, and to his center, or his vertical axis. So if I'm coming from outside of his arms, this is outside gait. And I can come high, I can come low. An outside gait is good because generally speaking, I can have two limbs, or at least, let's say all four of my limbs, against two of his limbs. Or I can have two arms against one arm. And it'll also help me to even use his own arm and his own body to block some of the attacks from his rear hand. And there's some ranging issues there as well. So that's outside gait. If I'm coming in between his arms, or in the inside of his arms, we call this inside gait. So I'm coming in this way, because I'm on the inside of his arms. And you can also do this with the legs as well, where if I come here, I don't know, can we see it? I think so. And I'm stepping in maybe to disrupt his stance. I could be stepping into the inside gait. I could be stepping here on the outside, and that's the outside gait. All right, so this is just a way of understanding positions of your limbs relative to your partner or your opponent's limbs. So the idea of threading is mainly to change gaits so that you can maintain your central focus, or the centeredness of your hands, your guard, along what we call central relationship, which is just the line connecting my center to his center, my vertical axis to his vertical axis, right? Doesn't necessarily mean the center of his body. But while we're connected here, so actually let's face sideways, we'll come a little bit closer to the camera. All right, so here we're in just this neutral position where we've crossed guards. Obviously, you're not going to fight like this. Nobody's going to come up and go, all right, huh, unless there's some kind of agreed upon match where that's how you're going to start. But for the most part, the idea is just as a means for practicing and to just have a general way of referencing your arms positions. Now, sometimes someone will try to push your arms off center and open up a target so that their other hand can attack. This is very common in a lot of different martial arts that use hand techniques. So what threading is going to let me do, and we'll just do that arm without the punch just so they can see it, is he's going to move me out, and I'm going to bring this hand, I'm going to slide it along the bottom of my lead hand. My rear hand is going to slide forward, and it's going to take the center position, and my rear hand slides forward, my lead hand is going to draw back and take the rear position. And if he pushes this hand across the clear center that way, now my rear hand is going to slide up and take the center position. So, put your hands down for a second. So threading is this kind of a motion here. And it's just an efficient way to replace center. Replace your hands, your guard on central relationship. And there are some other things that it can help you to do as well. All right, so that's threading from below. If the hands are in a lower position, say down here, maybe this is a thrust, could be with a knife, could be just a thrust punch to the stomach. For whatever reason, the limbs are down here. It happens. Okay. I could be guiding him off, but in order not to cross myself, cross my own center, which is not a great position for me, I'm going to thread across the top of my other arm, and now I can check with this hand as I come in for whatever comes next. So let's do it with this hand. threading along the top here. Now I can continue to thread in, and then here, for instance, grabbing or striking towards the groin. And threading leads into things like coiling. So if I thread in here, then I can begin to coil up and start some manipulations into takedowns, joint locks, different opportunities for strikes, things like that. So all of our bridging techniques and manipulation techniques kind of blend together. So threading along with this sort of circular passing action. So this is passing. Let's think kind of like a caddy corner, 45 degrees. So passing could be, I'm circling, sort of like coiling here, threading to change hands, bringing him up, and threading this way. And this is just a way to practice the coordination for changing your hand positions for different techniques. And by learning to pass and thread along a circle like this, and I'm going to switch directions, I can manipulate his position relative to mine and vice versa without having to lose contact. Okay, now along with this idea of threading is an idea of shearing force, or sometimes it's called filing or grinding. So we use this to deflect an incoming punch offline. So actually, Alex, will you stand sort of just like that? Thank you, sir. And like about there. Perfect. Okay, so Alex is going to throw we'll do it with your left hand for the sake of the camera. He's going to, in a moment, throw a left-handed punch towards my center, towards my face. And what I'm going to do is just extend my arm forward. You'll notice my elbow is down, my shoulder relaxed. My hand's going to be more or less in this position, and I'm going to extend forward like this. And I'm going to do so towards center along the outside gate of his arm, and this is going to force his punch over to my left shoulder, or in that direction. So his arm is going to be deflected off to the side, and my hand is going to be able to continue its aim towards center. Go ahead. Okay. One more time. One more time. Okay. So this has that same threading-like motion or extension, but it's actually cutting into or shearing his arm and sending it off to the side using the structure and the forward motion. Now, I can do the same thing on the inside gate. Let's say he's coming with a wider punch, but instead of going towards center, I'm going to bring my hand out and up, more or less in line with my shoulder. More towards me, less of a swing punch, more of just sort of like an overhand punch to the jaw, or even less than that, more bam. Yeah, because otherwise I would do something different than this kind of an action. All right, so I'm moving into that space, and once again, shearing and kind of grinding his arm out with my extension. So I'm meeting him, but it's sort of along the same line of his motion in the opposite direction, with just a slight variation. So it's sort of like I'm derailing his train and putting it on another set of tracks. And this could also be in a downward motion. Say he's thrusting out my stomach. All right, let's come a little bit further away so they can see the whole extension. He's hitting here. All right, I don't even have to look. I basically know where his center is, and I shear in, again, deflecting him. And once again, this is my entry, my bridging movement, so that I can come in, maybe into some wrapping action here, maybe coiling, right, into some kind of a takedown action, maybe to bring this around into some kind of a joint locking action. There's a lot of things that can happen. I just have to go with the flow as it develops. But that's the shearing concept there. Now we can add spiraling in and spiraling out, and now it becomes what we call drilling. And that, giving it that turning along with the extension, is going to knock him off center even more powerfully, and it's going to have less of this friction. And it's actually going to have more of an ability to come through like a strike. So when Alex throws that punch towards my center, I can come in and drill, and you see he's bounced out. And that allowed me to come in with a little bit more power rather than this sort of grinding, shearing kind of stickiness that we got originally. The same thing, if he's on the outside gate, I should just punch straight again. I'll just go to the inside gate. I can rotate up and out, heading towards his center. And that's going to bounce him up more, up and out. So again, this rotation adds a horizontal or sideways force, even though I'm heading forward, because it's spiraling. So it has that circular force as I move forward. Now, we can also do drawing or covering, and that's coming back the other way, but it's sort of along with this threading action, because as my rear hand starts to become my lead hand comes back to my rear hand. And so the backward action is just as important. So sometimes we've already bridged, maybe we're just in here and we're coiling for practice and we're looking for different techniques, but sometimes my arms are already extended, maybe they're separated, and Alex is coming in. And oftentimes this will be when somebody's on your inside gate, but you can do it on the outside gate, and I'll show that too. So he's coming in, and I'm just going to cover. Don't come in so much with your whole body, just reach in with your hands for the sake of the video. Right? And I'm just going to draw and cover. So it's sort of this sliding motion, which feels a lot like the threading on your own arm, just sliding down. And what this does, this drawing and covering, is it's going to gently guide and steer his force offline. So he's coming forward, and I'm coming backward with him. But as I come back, I'm subtly moving him to the side, or I may be subtly coiling to the inside. And because I'm going along with his basic direction of movement, it's going to be easier for me to redirect or steer that energy or change the tracks that this train is on than it would be if he's coming in and I just push him to the side. And it also won't affect my position as much. And it's harder for him to feel because it's going along with him. It's softer. So, for instance, let's say he throws that punch, right? And I just do something like this. And I'm staying sticky with him. And I'm not pushing him to the side, but I'm going along with him while I guide. And I'm keeping my touch, keeping my contact as a check against this free motion that he can just come this way and then come back in any other way. So when I go like this, go ahead. Even if he's to come back and try to hit me, no, with the same hand just for the sake of what we're talking about, go ahead. I'm still in contact and I can still manipulate that position. Or I go like this and he pushes out, right? And I go here and he pushes back in. Now I'm back to threading, things like that. So this sort of drawing and covering can even be in like a manipulation, like if I'm pulling. Let's say he punches and I go ahead, I draw and thread and I get here. Now I can draw again, not because I am using this to deflect his attack, but I'm leading it into a manipulation where I have his wrist and his elbow, or I'm just going to pull him and start to manipulate his balance and move into some kind of an attack that way. And I include it with my talk on threading because it's just this opposite action. It's part of that motion. And when you have them both, it becomes a kind of system in itself, limited, but the action happen reciprocally on either side. So you get used to something else, something else, right? You get used to these actions of sliding along rather than techniques that do something and let go, do something and let go. And by keeping this contact, you can flow a lot more with your opponent's movement. Sorry, I'm just beating on you over time. So that's threading. And we talked a little bit about grinding. So grinding and shearing are similar but not the same. Let's put it together, punch with this one. I do this threading deflection, Then I do a draw into this position where I've got my forearm bone here, grinding against the tendons just above his elbow joint here, all right, tendon of the tricep. Now, instead of just pushing against that joint, where he may even feel that and push back and resist, and if he's got some skill, I may lose the advantage that I have here for a moment. But if I sort of saw the bone along as I push down and pull up, I get a better effect. Even more, if I spiral, right, if I drill, so this is really grinding, right? So I'm putting together the shearing and the spiraling of drilling, and I'm grinding as I give that basic force, pulling against the wrist and pushing against the elbow. You okay?
Yeah.
I felt that pop.
Yeah.
I'll go a little bit softer. Point is then you're getting a lot of force being ground into that area, and it's pretty uncomfortable. And even if it's somebody who has a lot of pain tolerance for, there's a pressure point here, right? Yeah. Okay. Even if it's somebody who has a lot of pain tolerance there, the way that this force goes in a lot of different directions at once makes it harder for the person to feel and adjust to, right? Because you have this turning, you have this pushing, pulling, and you have this horizontal movement, along with your own body turn and drop. So that's grinding, and again, it goes along with this basic movement because they feed into each other so much. So threading, shearing, right, along with that drilling, shearing or drilling kind of concept, and grinding. All of which have the same body mechanic more or less behind them. Anything to add to that? Any questions about it that might enlighten the students out there?
I think you got it.
Thanks. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Good job. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.